We'll just start with the prayers. Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwaraha, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunattu Sah Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So let's start. Right, so here we go.
Well, I did learn a bit of this shloka and written it in English, so pardon me for any mispronunciation. I'm sure it'll be there. Right. So just to give you a preamble, last week when Vedant took us through the whole session and gave us the aspect of there's a sattvic aspect, rajas aspect, right? So what the next four shlokas are going to speak about is with regard to the sattvic element, right? So the first one, 20.1, goes like this. Vayoho sattvikam shatva agnendriyam sambhutam. So basically what it says here is from the sattvic aspect of Vayu, air is evolved, the skin and the organ of touch. So that's what this means. The next one is Agnehi Satvikam Shat Chakshashurindriyam Sambhutam. So what this very clearly says is from the sattvic aspect of fire is formed the eye. So what I realized was chakshu, chashma, that's typically where the whole thing comes in. There's a Hindi equivalent of that. Yeah, and the next one, Vivan. So the third one is jalasya satvikam shadha nendriyam sambhutam. From the sattvic aspect of water is formed the tongue, our basis of the organ of taste. That's what this shloka is about. The fourth one is Pratyaya Sattvikamsha Gronendriyam Sambhutam. That is, from the sattvic aspect of earth is formed the organ of smell. These are pretty straightforward. So this is it from me. Thanks, Vedant.
Okay, I think I'll take over. एतेषां पञ्चतत्त्वानां समष्टि सात्विक अंशत् मनो बुद्ध्यहङ्कार चित्ता antahkaranaani sambhutani. Right, so we looked at how this pancha gyanendriyani originated from the pancha sukshma bhutani. Right, so if we can go to the next slide, Vidan, I'll come back to this if needed. Okay, is it too small? Okay, so basically we saw how the pancha bhutani evolved, right, from akasha to vayu to teja to jala and prithvi, right, and we saw how each, when it is evolving, it is inheriting from the previous one, and it is also adding one vishesha guna at every time. right? Every evolution is adding one more Vishesha Guna that it is having. So Vayu has Sparsha, Teja has special property of, which is Rupam, right? So all of them get added. Now, when we actually look at which we just heard the shlokas of how these sattvika aspect of all the pancha bhutanis gives rise to pancha jnanendriya. Now we know when we say sattvika aspect, we know sattvika guna was responsible for jnana or knowledge. So it is logical that all these jnanendriyas have to evolve from the jnana aspect, which is the sattvika guna. So Akasha had Shabda Guna, which is recognizable by one Indriyam, which is Srotra Indriyam. Vayu Bhutam, which has the Vishesha Guna of Sparsha, is responsible for the creation of Sparsha Indriyam. So Agni Bhutam, which has the Vishesha Guna of Rupa, which is form, is responsible for Chakshu Indriyam. So if we see whichever Indriyam has evolved from the specific Sukshma Bhutani, it is able to recognize that Vishesha Guna, right? So that is why they are all related. So Jalam has the Vishesha Guna of Rasa, so it is responsible for Rasana Indriyam. Similarly, Prithvi has the Vishesha Guna of smell, so it's responsible for Grahana Indriyam, right? But we still need one coordinating entity. When we say coordinating entity, it needs to coordinate between all of them. It needs to be able to recognize, therefore, it needs to be able to recognize all the Panchabhutani. If we go back to that logic, that every Indriyani which has evolved has the property of being able to recognize that Vishesha Guna, it is but natural that when we want a coordinating entity which can coordinate among all of them, we need something to evolve from all of them. So from the Sattva Guna, the total Sattva Guna of all the Panchabhutani, what evolves is Antahakaranam, right? And Antahakaranam is Samashti Sattva Guna, because the Antahakaranam is the internal organ which has to coordinate between all of them. So when I say, okay, I am hearing and I am seeing this, I need to be able to relate all of them across all the organs. And that is what this coordination entity is doing, right? But Antahakaranam is not just one organ. And here we can go to the next slide, Bidan. So it has multiple aspects to it. So Antahakaranam is like one organ but has multiple functions, just like our phone right now functions as a camera and you can do WhatsApp chats or whatever, right? But the same organ doing multiple functions, and that is what this Antahakarana is. So it has 4 different functional names depending on the function that it is doing. So first one is Manaha, which is the we know Manaha is Sankalpa Vikalpa Mana, which is the vacillating mind, which is busy deciding the pros and cons, and everyone is blessed with it. If someone becomes too manas oriented, I think they will have analysis paralysis and won't be able to move beyond it, right? And then you have the buddhi, which is the decision making entity, which is your nishchayatmika buddhi, which is what is deciding power. So all of them have to go together. Imagine if you have only buddhi and no mana, right? You are basically going to take very impulsive decisions, right? So you need that all of the balance to come in. And then you have chittam, which is your memory. And how does memory help? Memory is of past experiences, which influences our decisions. So whatever we are deciding today, or whatever we are, the pros and cons we're evaluating, a lot of it is colored by our past experiences, which is where the chittam comes in. And then you have the ahamkara. Now, ahamkara, as we all know, is ego. And so far, we have always kind of looked at ego saying, okay, this is not something we should be having. But if you look at the base ego, it is an essential aspect, right? It is not a nice to have, because that base ego which we are talking about is required for self identification, right? Even the most humble person is going to have an ego. Otherwise, that person cannot function. That ego is your identification. It is that I am aware that I'm attending the class today. That awareness or that self identification that I have is your ahamkara. So there are many other upadhis which we can layer on top of it, which is what when we talk about, when we say that we don't want to have too much ego, we are talking about those other aspects that we accumulate over time, saying, I am a professional, I am educated like this, I might have ego about many other things, right, which kind of keep adding up. But when we look at that base thing we are talking about, that is required for a human being to function, otherwise you cannot function, right? It is that very awareness, right? So when we look at it, when the eyes are perceiving something and ears are listening to something, right, you have to have this entity which identifies with the eyes and the ears and say, okay, I am hearing this, or I'm seeing this, or I'm doing this. And that is where antakarna comes. And for ahankara, we know that we discussed this once, that what is it that has been continuing throughout our life, from when I was a kid to when I was small, when my body has changed, when my mind has changed. It is this self identification, right? I know, I think I myself made a mistake thinking, okay, we are talking about consciousness at that point of time, but actually what we are talking about is this self identification. And even though things get replaced, even our organs can get replaced by many other things, but our self identification continues, and that is your ahankara. So all of these four functions combine together, and that is what your antakaranam is, right? I think that's it from my end.
Any questions? Beautifully explained, with Anand and Asha. A couple of points. Just thought I will kind of look at it. This is a very nice chart which you have put across. Let's, I mean, maybe we just want to throw a little bit more light on the fact that sattvic aspect of all. So here we are seeing sattvic aspect of Akasha has created organ of hearing. Sattvic aspect of Vayu has created organ of touch. Now, how is then Antakarana, your mind, created? So mind is also created from this sattvic aspect of all of them put together. Isn't that, Asha, how it works? So when they're saying samasta
Yeah.
guna, samasta
Yes.
sattvic guna, right? So all the sattvic guna put together has also led to, because if it has to coordinate with all of them, it needs to be made out of sattvic aspect. This is okay. Now, can we just quickly throw some light on what's the difference between manas and buddhi? Anyone?
Could manas mean all the thoughts and emotions, or what we in otherwise also think as our manomaya kosha when it comes to understanding it, and buddhi being the vijnanamaya kosha? Is that what it is, Vidhan?
So why don't we just take from a very practical perspective, and let's throw out an example of what will be manas and what will be buddhi. What you are saying, Uma, is right. So let's make it a little practical here.
Okay. So if I have to give an example, say my kid wants to eat an ice cream and it's exam time and it's winter. So then the thoughts that I have about all this, oh, it's winter, I don't know whether I should buy it for her, whether it's the right decision to make, but she is asking, should I say no? Will she be upset? All the thought process that goes on is the manaha.
Perfect.
And
including the emotions, right?
yeah.
Including
So
emotions that you're feeling.
yeah, exactly. So the buddhi would be the final clarity that I have, that it's okay for her to be upset, but her health and her exams right now are on the priority list. So that would come from the buddhi.
Okay, so let me make this a little complicated now.
Okay.
So you sort of decide, okay, hey, she's going to throw too much of tantrums. Let me allow her to have the ice cream.
Hmm.
So that decision is also a product of buddhi?
No. I think that is more influenced by my feelings that I have for her rather than the facts.
So we are going very subtle right now. So right now we said decision-making capability is buddhi, right?
Yeah.
So whether you decide to allow her to have an ice cream or you decide to disallow her to have ice cream, both the decisions, isn't that a product of buddhi?
I don't think so.
Think.
One decision is influenced by the mind and the other by the intellect. Maybe that's how I'm seeing.
See, there are thoughts, right?
Maybe from what I understood about what you had explained, Bidan, is that all that decisions that we are taking, all the inputs that we are taking is coming from the manaha, right? But the
Yes.
actual decision itself that is happening is coming from the buddhi, irrespective of whether it's a decision to allow or not allow.
Exactly. So even if you have allowed her to have the ice cream, that was also a part of your buddhi, because the decision has come from there.
Yeah.
Even if you have disallowed. So therefore, I'm trying to bring this out very clearly. So we understand what's the difference between manas and buddhi, because generally we tend to think that only right decisions are a part of buddhi. First of all, we don't know what is right and what is wrong. So if you think that disallowing her to have an ice cream is a right decision, that's again a part of your belief system, which is a part of your manas, right?
Yeah.
She should not be having an ice cream, because if she has an ice cream, it will lead to cough and cold, manas, right? Second thing is, hey, let me have her an ice cream. What is the big deal? She's fine. She's anyway very stressed out. Maybe having an ice cream will actually help her calm down a bit. That thought is also manas, right? If I make her have the ice cream, I may feel guilty. That guilt is a part of
Manas.
manas. If I disallow her to have an ice cream, I may feel bad. That is a part of
Manas.
manas. So are you able to see that and if we say this is a right decision, the idea of right and wrong is also a part of?
Manas.
Manas.
Then what is buddhi? I just wanted to bring out very practical aspect of these things. Yeah.
Buddhi is something which is weighing the right and wrong of the thoughts that I am getting. And that is based on the memories, the experiences that I have in most of the cases.
Right. You're very close, Varshanjali. You're more or less there. So buddhi is very subtle. If you all start observing yourself.
क्या?
Sorry. So
बहुत गलत लगता है, बहुत गंदा लगता है. दे देंगे, मैं कुछ नहीं बोल सकती हूँ. तुम नहीं improve कर रहे हो.
Is it for me? Okay.
I'm
Somebody's
so sorry.
manas is speaking. Yeah. So Bidan, if we have to say it in other ways, we are saying all the inputs that we put, whether it is right, wrong, whether it is, feelings, thoughts, ideas, all the things that are going in is the part of manas. The moment of clarity, whatever it is the buddhi.
Yes.
So whatever we act on is buddhi.
The decision is buddhi.
So more than decision, the word generally used is discretion.
Okay.
Right. So let us take another example right now. You all think. So let us assume that we all know that smoking is bad, right? Smoking is bad, but I'm used to smoking. So every time I look at a smoke, I start smoking, right? So what has happened here is that anyway, a decision has been taken to smoke. irrespective of the fact that I know smoking is bad. So somewhere I am going out and taking the particular decision. Now, what will happen over a period of time, you start smoking and you start smoking very consciously and you start feeling bad about it. And after a point of time, what will happen one day, you may not feel like smoke. So again, a decision is taken not to smoke. So all the decisions, the clarity that comes, say for example, let's take another example, which we will all relate to. So we will all have issues in relationships. How much we hope that someone listens to us. My child listens to us, isn't it? We all expect them to listen to us. And somewhere that is our need, that's our belief, that whatever we are going to talk about is good for the child. At the same time, we know very well that they will not listen to us. They know very well that they will take their own time to understand. They will go through their own experiences. Very well knowing that, still, when they don't listen to us, we feel angry. We know we should not be feeling angry. We know that we should basically talk to them, talk about what are the advantages, disadvantages. We should be calm. We should show it basis our own practice. We know everything. But knowing does not lead to an action. Don't we all know? That we know 2,000 things, but it does not necessarily yield into an action, because your emotions speak something else and your words speak something else. So all this knowing and doing, all this knowing business, right and wrong, emotions, everything is a part of your manas. But what will happen a lot of time, you will decide, you will automatically, something in your mind will click on and you will start shouting. It may happen very spontaneously. So at that point of time, your buddhi has decided to shout. That is what it has done. Some decision was already taken in your mind. So decision was taken to give more weightage to your emotions than to your thoughts. The decision was taken to give more weightage to your emotions than to your thoughts, and therefore you ended up shouting. Now what will happen is that after you shout, you basically pause and see, hey, they still don't listen to me. Or even they listen to me, they get back to their track very quickly what they were doing earlier. Or you basically start watching, hey, even after I shout, I don't feel good about it. You will think about these things. Again, that's a part of your manas. And then what will happen? Next time the same thing happens, you will shout again. Correct? You will shout again. Again, your buddhi is taken more weightage on the emotions that you're facing. This may happen 3-4 times. And every time you are watching that, every time I'm shouting, it's actually of no use. I only feel bad. I only feel miserable. Nothing is changing. For all you know, they are becoming more and more rebellious. What will happen 5th time or 6th time, when they make the same mistake, you will not have the same emotional outburst. At that moment, you will still feel a sense of calm, and suddenly you will kind of talk to them in a slightly more civil manner, in a manner that you had always wanted it to. So suddenly your algorithm in your brain has changed. Earlier, it was giving a lot more weightage to your feelings or your emotions. Now, slowly, it has learned over a period of time, hey, giving into my emotions is not helping, not helping, not helping, not helping. At some point of time, a switch happens that your buddhi changes, your algorithm changes, and then you stop shouting back, or you stop becoming angry. I'm just giving an example. It may not happen. So what I'm trying to say is buddhi is a very subtle, it's a very, very deep rooted algorithm which makes you take an action, which makes you do certain things after having so much of complex thoughts. And the thoughts can be superficial. The thoughts can be not very superficial. Say, for example, we're talking about vasanas. Some vasanas are expressive. It's very clear. But there are a lot of vasanas which can be called as subconscious patterns, which you're not even aware of it. that is also influencing your decision-making process. So everything, the algorithm that decides or discerns in terms of what action is to be taken becomes a part of your buddhi.
So in other words, Vidhan, what I'm also understanding is, though buddhi is very subtle and we are more experiencing of the manas all the time, there is a point where not only manas is influencing buddhi, but buddhi also influences manas.
No. So buddhi, we are somewhere in our head, we are thinking that buddhi is a superior, is someone which decides what is right and wrong. The point I'm trying to tell you here is the idea of right and wrong is also part of manas.
Hmm. So
What
it's
is right?
decision without any addition to it. It's just decision.
It's a discretion. It's a discretion at something within you kind of moves ahead with one idea. It's some sort of a discretion, or you can say decision-making algorithm that works.
Okay.
That kind of chooses between multiple options that is given. Is the place where the choice is made. And most of the choices which are made is subconscious. We think we have made the choice is already made, and we become aware of those choices, thinking that I have made the choice.
So does intellect always override thoughts?
Intellect is what discerns. Thoughts are multiple. There are 200 thoughts that will be going in your head. One thought finally finds an expression, isn't it?
So finally we did. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So it always overrides. It's the final port of call, the
Exactly.
intellect.
That's that your discretion in terms of which thoughts finds its expression.
Bidhan,
Sure.
are we talking about only thoughts, or we are also including emotions in manas
Everything is a part of manas, your thoughts and emotions.
and emotions? Okay.
And there'll be a lot of times where your emotions and your thoughts may not be in sync. Right? Shall I give it back to the person, or shall I restrain? Right? Or shall I do this investment, or shall I not? Should I take this job offer, or should I not? So there'll be a lot of multiple thoughts which will be at loggerheads. There'll be thoughts and emotions will be at loggerheads. There'll be two emotions which will be at loggerheads. So these are on the mind, on the manas, on the canvas of manas, there are just too many things which is happening. But ultimately, one thing finds an expression. Who takes that decision, or who takes that final call? It is your buddhi, right? And therefore, if you see in one of the Upanishads, I think it's Taittiriya Upanishad. However, the same description is given in Bhagavad Gita, where there is a analogy which is drawn of a cart, horse, Shri Krishna, Arjuna, if you all remember. So the horses are construed to be the sense organs, and the reins are construed to be your mind, which is your manas. But rein should be in the hand of buddhi. So buddhi basically kind of calls out. And they say that let your reins be controlled by Shri Krishna. So let your intellect be driven by dharma. So that's where Bhagavad Gita is all about. That let dharma decide, let your intellect be driven by dharma, so that it will kind of direct your manas in terms of what action has to be taken. It will kind of choose the right thoughts, the right emotions. And those right thoughts and right emotions will be expressed through your panchendriyanis, panchkarmendriyanis, through all those five horses. And therefore, you will move into the right direction, the path of dharma. So I just thought I should bring this out because it's a little complicated, confusing topic with difference between manas and buddhi, because somehow we feel that buddhi is superior Buddhi, of course, is superior, but Buddhi is the decision-making faculty. It chooses between multiple options. Those options may not be right or wrong, because right and wrong, again, is a product of your manas.
Vidhan, in the same example, how does memory and ego also, can you combine all these also and explain?
Right. So memory is an important aspect of your manas. So manas and memory kind of works. I mean, it's a food of intellect. So intellect will take data from manas. It will take data from memory. That's so here in when you look at in Antakaranam, I think what in Tattva Bodha they are explaining is that the mind has four different aspects. The mind basically has four aspects of manas, buddhi, chittam, ahankara. So at some time it behaves like memory, at sometimes it behaves like decision-making faculty, at sometimes it behaves like emotions, at sometimes with thoughts. So these are the four ways in which the mind expresses itself. That is what has been told here. And ahankara again is very beautifully explained by Asha. So just to give a point to it, ahankara is not abhimana. Abhimana is that ego that I'm great, I'm good, I'm big. Ahankara does not mean about abhimana. It talks about self-respect, reference as Asha was talking about. So sometimes we lose this ahankara. Say, for example, when you're listening to the music, sometimes you forget that you are the listener, isn't it? Sometimes you forget that you are the listener. Or when you are basically on a mountain and you look at a mesmerizing scenery. So sometimes you forget the presence of yourself. You become one with everything. So in those moments, the ahankara drops. So whenever the ahankara drops, the reference to this body and mind drops. You no longer feel that you are a part, you are this body and mind. Similarly, in deep sleep. In deep sleep, you don't remember that you are the one which is sleeping, isn't it? Because again, there ahankara drops. So whenever the self-reference drops, you no longer consider yourself a part of this body and mind. You expand. But ahankara is extremely important for the protection of this body and mind. Suppose if you're lost and you're crossing the road, you'll be knocked down by a vehicle. So ahankara is required for the integrity of the body and mind, for the body and mind to function. Otherwise, you will not be able to function. If you're lost all the time, you will not be able to function. So yeah.
Then, is it right to say that all these four are aspects will be there at all times for us? I mean, it's not a few or one or.
Yes.
It's all the time, all like even if you take Uma's example of, the ice cream example, I think there is an aspect of memory and there is that
yes.
identification. All these aspects are there.
Yes, there is a ahankara also. She is identified to her role as a mother. She identified to her role of a caretaker. So there is an ahankara. There is an I-ness. There is a memory. Yeah, last time I have given this, all things happened. There is also emotions, thoughts. And ahankara, as Asha was beautifully explaining, is like a glue. It sort of puts everything together. You say for example, when you say, my name is Sapna. So name is one aspect, Sapna is another aspect. So my Sapna and name gets connected because of ahankara. So I-ness is kind of connects everything together, right? Let's say I am an angry mother. As a mother, I am very angry. So mother is one aspect. Anger is another aspect. How does anger and mother come together? Because of I-ness. I, mother, I, angry. So I, mother, angry. So that I-ness is something which sort of glues but puts everything together. This is what ahankara is all about. So these are four aspects of your mind, and this will be there most of the times.
So, Vidhan, I had another question. The Antakaranam, if we try and relate this to the Panchakoshas, it would be the Manomaya Kosha and the Vijnanamaya Kosha?
Yes, yes.
together.
And within Vijnanmaya Kosha comes Ahankara, and within Manomaya Kosha comes Chittam. They've kind of plugged it in, basically.
And also Manas.
Yeah,
Because,
Manomaya is a Manas only.
right. Okay. All right.
Hmm? Perfect. Shall we go to the next one? This we have covered, no, Asha?
Yeah, it's the same thing.
Yeah, so this is mine. Okay. So I really think we have covered quite a lot of it, but let's just again go through. Sankalpa Vikalpa Vikalpatmakam Manaha. Manas is of the nature of indecision or doubt. So could we go to the next one? Yeah, so the operation, the area of operation for the manas is analyzing, discriminating, and processing the pros and cons of any situation that we are facing. It is highly developed in the human mind and not as developed in animals. Also, do I have another one with Han? There's another one, yeah. So again, this the like we have been discussing, it is not about making that final decision. It is just that process of I had come up with this with like, okay, deciding on a child's school. So you go through a whole lot. How far is it? What are the facilities available? How are the teachers there? What are the timings? How clean is the environment? So many of these things. So it's like a weighing thing, right? So this is where we are analyzing, we are gathering that information, we are discriminating, and we are processing what we have. And finally, yes, I think the buddhi takes over. But manas is the part where it's like the weighing scale, pros and cons. Sankalp, vikalp, here it is used as pros and cons in that sense. So that is manas. So yeah, that is it from me.
Great, then. We sort of did our session quite quickly today. We can actually pick up a couple of questions which Asha has asked. But before that, just wanted to request all of you, since we are planning the session, we're basically meeting in person for a day or for 2 days. We have got around 20 people joining in. That's a great news. So looks like we're going to have a lot of fun and plan it quite interestingly. The only request is all those who are yet to confirm. It will be nice if we can just try and confirm by the end of this week, so that we can freeze on the number of rooms and take other things forward. Is that okay for all of you? Because we got a good response for this get together. And yes, we can get your family members together. In case if you want to, once you can get your husband as well. We've been wanting him to be a part of this, so get him along with you. All right. So yeah, we are done for today. Asha, you had a question. If you just want to throw it out in the group.
Okay.
And where is the other Uma? One is Uma Krishnamurthy and you're there?
There, but I'm traveling, so I don't know signal, and that's why I've kept my video off.
Asha has a question for you, Vedant. I'm going on mute. Yes, Asha, please go ahead.
Just 1 minute, I'm just digging it out. Yeah. So the question that I had, and when I was doing my readings, is So how can the universe have Karana Prapancha, right? If it is the if the reflected consciousness of the universe is Ishvara, which is the totality of all powers, then how can it have universal karma? And is universe the same as the total of jivas, which is, let's assume, if it is Brahmanda, and if it is Brahmanda, which is a sum total of the Pindanda, then Ishvara will have all the gunas and won't be sattva predominant, and Ishvara will actually have the same characteristics and weaknesses of a jiva. So how is the universe having any kind of karma?
Asha, you'll have to go over that question all over again. That was so long.
Please repeat it. Yeah.
Still
Yeah.
processing it.
Let me,
Please,
I
please
just,
put it in parts actually,
Oh
Asha.
my God, that was
let me do one thing. Let me just paste it.
Break the question.
I'll paste it because they're all related. Okay, so I didn't want to break it mainly because it's kind of related. The question is one only. It's just that how is it having a universal karma? Is it a sum total of the jivas, or if it is something more than that? If it is just a sum total of all the sentient beings and it is reflected consciousness of all of them, then we know that we are not very sattvic predominant, right? The whole idea is we are having rebirths because we have a karma and we are getting reborn. So which means the sum total of all the jivas are also going to be, may not have that predominance which we are looking for in an Ishvara. Then how is that having a universal karma? It kind of defeats the whole definition of Ishvara the way we know it, right? Because we say Ishvara is, so how is it having a universal karma in the first place?
But I have a doubt about the question itself. Universal karma is always a sigma of the individual karmas.
Not I so this my understanding again is something that there is the Brahmanda and Pindanda. Pindanda is your jiva, which is an individual, and Brahmanda is the sum total of all the jivas. Now the question is the universal consciousness which we are saying is the reflecting medium same as sum total of all the jivas? That I'm not sure, which is why I wanted to ask, is Brahmanda the same as the reflecting medium for the Ishvara? If it is, then how does that kind of add up?
Pindanda is the microcosm, is what is my understanding. Is it right, Asha?
Yeah. Pindanda is the microcosm, which is
And
in the
Brahmanda
jiva.
is the macro.
Macro.
Yeah.
And what I read was like, even if there is, so Brahmanda is the sum total of all the Pindanda. So even if one jiva is not there, it changes your overall Brahmand. So that was interesting concept, because that means that every one of us who's there in the universe matter to the overall Brahmand, right? But the question for me, which is confusing, is why is there a universal karma? Because Ishvara and universal karma don't add up for me, right?
Ishvara and universal, come again, Ishvara and universal karma don't add up.
Yeah, so the whole idea is we have a karma, which is why we are getting reborn, right? Which is understandable, right? Which is where we say we become Jivan Muktas after some time when we attain this thing, right? Because we are in ignorance. Now, when you are saying Ishvara, which is the reflected consciousness of the whole universe,
that is
then,
Brahman and Maya together is Ishvara.
Correct. So how,
which is in the causal body.
Correct. But how is it having, why is it having a Karana Prapancha? Why is it getting reborn, if I may use the word, again and again? Because the whole reason for rebirth or whatever coming back is because your karmas are not exhausted.
This will really break this, Asha. We are talking about a very different concept called reflected consciousness. Chidabhasa. You have to understand that also. So first of all, the definition of Ishvara, which I know of, which is very technically stated, is Brahman with Maya.
With Maya.
Maya when it is not manifested. Right? So when Brahman, when the Maya is there in a potential form, Maya is actually in a potential form, but I'm just giving an example. When Maya is in a potential form, that is Ishvara. Because Brahman is there and Maya is there. That is Ishvara. That is technically called Ishvara. Now, Maya is in a Vyakt form, in a potential. When Maya Vyakt, if it kind of manifests itself, it becomes universe. Correct? So it becomes, so Maya is there in a seed form. So Brahman plus Maya in a seed form is called Ishvara. When Maya expresses itself into multiple folds, that Brahman plus Maya is called Paramatma. So Ishvara becomes Paramatma. From Paramatma comes Jivatma. Because when Maya creates, so when we have studied, right, that first of all, Prapanchatrayam was created. So universal bodies were created. Universal gross bodies was created and universal subtle body was created. From the universal gross body and the universal subtle body, the Pindanda or the microcosm gross body and microcosm subtle body. Now your question over here is that how come Maya, so why did Maya, which was in unmanifested form, manifests itself? Where does the karma come into picture? That's what you are trying to ask. So first of all, Ishvara does not have any guna. Jahan tak what I know, because Ishvara is Brahman with Maya. Maya in its potential form. So Maya, Ishvara is not, and then Maya becomes or expresses itself into, Maya has three gunas, it expresses into this universe. And from that universe comes the smaller bodies. So this is how the entire process is entailed. They say that the reason the universe basically is in a potential state, it expands, it contracts, it and goes back into the potential state. So it is circular in nature, which means that every universe has its own karmic pattern. Every universe has its own karmic pattern. And since the universe has subtle body, the consciousness reflects on that subtle body and makes it sentient. Just like we have a subtle body, and that is explained in Drig Drish Viveka. That's another prakranam, which actually talks very highly in terms of Chidabhasa or reflected consciousness, where they kind of break and try and make us understand how does an experience happen. Because science today has not been able to explain us how does an experience happen. In science, we know that we say, for example, we listen from eyes and ears. The data basically gets perceived by them. It gets converted into electrical signals. It goes through certain neurons. So all this mechanical part has been understood. But how does this mechanical part finally leads into something called qualia or something called the first person experience? They have not been able to make us understand that how does those electrical signal leads into the first person experience. You understand what I'm trying to say. That something has not been able to explain. This process has been explained in Drigdrish Viveka through a process called Chidabhasa or reflected consciousness, wherein there is a supreme consciousness and it reflects on the subtle body, which is on the mind. And it feels as if the mind has become sentient. The mind has come alive. And the mind basically is able to put everything together and making sense of it. So that reflected consciousness is basically called Jivatma, to be precise. So it's like this. So let's take an example that there is a sun, there is a moon, and there's an earth. The moon looks at the earth, right? But the light of the moon belongs to the sun. The sun basically sends the light to the moon, and the moon reflects the light of the sun and calls it a moonlight. So if moon is supposed to be assuming an individual entity, it will end up believing that I am alive. And therefore I am able to see the earth. But the light does not belong to the moon. The light belongs to sun. Similarly, the consciousness reflects itself on the mind. And it feels as if mind is alive, as if you are alive, as if I am alive, as if everybody is alive. So that is the concept of Chidabhasa or reflected consciousness. That reflected consciousness basically is Jivatma. Now, that reflected consciousness at the level of this body and mind is Jivatma. At the level of universal body and mind is Paramatma. So Paramatma has gunas just like we have. But Ishvara is not Paramatma. Ishvara is separate from Paramatma. It is not still nullified by Maya. So Ishvara is a different concept. Brahman with Maya is called Ishvara. So these are basically things. So Paramatma has those qualities. And from Paramatma it comes to Jiva.
Bitan, I have something to share with what you just mentioned. Couple of months back, I think last year, September, October time, I don't know, I had this experience while meditating because I had constantly been asking, who am I, what am I, who am I? So I had this experience of just, during meditation, I was bloating. I was becoming so big, enlarged, so big. I felt my face puffed up, my body puffed up, everything became so big. I can't tell you how the feeling was of becoming huge. And suddenly, I did not see anything, but I saw the entire, I don't know what to call, was it the entire cosmos within me? It was like everything was dark around me. Everything was within me. There was nothing outside of me. In totality, I was the universe. So that's when, I got out of the meditation and I got back to this being of, the Jivatma. And now I want to understand from what you mentioned, what was this experience about? Did I experience being the universe, or was it something to do with the Brahmanda, which just now Asha mentioned about? Was I feeling the Brahmanda within me? And when I am in this state of, three-dimensional state, I'm able to experience being a Jivatma. I don't know. I'm just trying to correlate to what you just spoke now. So if you can kindly kind of highlight on.
From the little that I can understand from what you're trying to tell, I mean, very humbly, I would like to just state that I think it was something like that. They say, yat pinde tat brahmanda. I mean, whatever is there in you is actually there in the brahmanda. Maybe if you just saw that is what I mean, the moment you were telling me, this was one verse that just came into my head.
Yeah, beautiful. Very, very
Pinde
beautiful.
tat brahmanda.
Yeah, it was like, it was something that I can become, but I have not yet. I'm in the process of becoming that. I'm not the Brahmanda yet. Or do I have the Brahma? I don't know. I'm lost. But that was the experience of Jivatma, or the Pindanda, that which Asha, I mean, it's a new word for me today, which I was introduced by Asha. But Brahmanda, I've heard about, Brahmanda I thought was the universe. But today when Bidan and Asha were speaking about this, and you also, put some highlight on to what Asha was asking. So with all of this, is that what, and then where is that reflected consciousness then? Is it that everybody has got this Brahmanda within them, and hence we're all, I wouldn't say we are all a part of the consciousness, because I've always heard Bidan saying that we are the consciousness. And my experience also was that we are the consciousness. We are not a part of something, but we are that. So in that sense, I wanted a little more clarity. And with what Asha was asking, with regards to the reflected consciousness, then comes the Brahmanda and then comes the Pindanda. So I think little, yeah, but that was a good sentence, Uma. Thank you.
Thanks, Shreya, for sharing that. Honestly, I'll not be able to comment on it. It's something that's very personal to you and you've experienced it yourself.
Asha's question has
But
put.
Asha, coming back to what Asha was asking.
Yeah.
Asha, your reflected consciousness is a very different concept in itself. And that is a part of Drigdish Viveka that basically talks about how the experience happens. Now, here, what you're trying to say from what you have learned is that reflected consciousness of universe is Ishvara. And we may have to probably look at that again.
The reason I said was, so I am looking at Ishvara as Saguna Brahman. Brahman with qualities or Brahman with Maya. And Maya has three guna, right? So Saguna Brahman is Brahman with qualities, and that is why I said it is Ishvara. And if I am not wrong, there are some texts in Tattva Bodha, if we are making the difference between Paramatma and Ishvara, sometimes Paramatma is used in some texts as Ishvara and some texts as pure
Yes.
consciousness, which is Brahman, right? So that is why I use the word Ishvara. But if we don't want to use the word Ishvara, if we can use the word Paramatma, then also my question is about why should it come again and again? Why is there a karma, universal karma? What causes the universal karma? In our own limited understanding, we can say that we are causing some karma to happen because we have desires, we have aspirations, something leading to more vasanas, and that is what we have, and that is where we are, stuck in the cycle of birth and death. But why the universe?
Actually, should we straight away jump to Mandukya, where they say that why this theory of karma can be flawed beyond a point of time. It's just a scaffolding.
Maybe I'll just park this question for now.
I'll just listen for a moment, because when you basically get into karma, you'll get into loop. Who came first? The body came first, the mind came first, and then why was it? So there are a lot of questions that can be asked in karma itself. So we can park it for the moment.
Yeah.
Asha, I want to ask that when you're referring as universe, are you calling universe as Brahman? Like
No.
not the
Brahman,
consciousness, only our
Brahman.
universe.
Yeah, Brahman is the pure consciousness, and within that consciousness, everything else exists. Within that
Exactly.
consciousness, the universe is there. Within that consciousness, we are there, right? So, I am not talking about Brahman. I'm talking about this concept
Universe.
of
Okay.
universe having that same kind of thing which a jiva is experiencing of Karana Shariram, similar to Karana Shariram, Karana Prapancha, Sukshma Shariram, Sukshma Prapancha, Stula Shariram, Stula Prapancha. But yeah, that is what I was asking. But having said that, one thing is definitely, which was a big realization, in some sense for me personally, which I thought I might share. See, just like we feel we are real to ourselves, like I have this identification with myself, right? And I know that I am these three. And to think that at the universal level also there is actually a kind of something which has a similar kind of sentience, and that is what the Vedas speak of. Somewhere makes the whole concept of, I would say, God more real. I think, if I can say that.
Yes, you're right.
Yeah.
True that.
Great discussion. And I think these are good questions to ask. And as we go through in Tattva Bodha, and if at all we want to do Drigdish Viveka after this, or we want to do Bhagavad Gita, depending upon which way we go. If you go to Bhagavad Gita, we'll go in a very practical way of looking at it. If we get into Drigdish Viveka, we'll get a further, more intellectual understanding. So let's see where we go after this. Right.
Sorry, I just have one question. Ishvara is the unmanifested form, right?
Is Brahman.
That's what is.
Yeah.
And the manifested form is the Paramatma, right? So then her question about karma. Since it's in the unmanifested form, there'll be no such bindings of karma or universal karma. But in the manifested form, there would be. That's what I would think. I don't know.
Unmanifest to manifest. Why does unmanifest become manifest? Unmanifest becomes manifest because of karma only. No? Otherwise, it will remain unmanifested. So universe is being born and dying. Why? It's because of karma. It's getting born because there is a karma at the level of universe. Otherwise, why it will be born?
Yeah.
The universe has a karma. And we are part of the universe. So these things are explained very detailed in Trigvish Viveka. These concepts are explained. All right, then let's close this for today. I just do the prayers. I'm not sure if Uma can do it. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you so much, and see you all next week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.